Let me start out with a couple of thank yous, because that's what politicians are programmed to do at the beginning of speeches. First of all, thanks to the Heinz Foundation for having me here. Second of all, I'm really honored to be here with Mayor Bill Peduto. For those of you who are from Pittsburgh, what you may not realize is that around the country, Mayor Peduto is looked at as somebody who's really an innovator, who's up and coming. I have a full 8 months on him in terms of tenure, but I'm still learning from him, and he's really somebody who's looked at across the country. So, Mayor, great to be here with you. So I want to talk about Chattanooga as a case study. This is my hometown. But really what I want to talk about is why we are in control of our own destiny, and that as city leaders, the most important thing that we can do is empower others to say we are not passive viewers as history washes over us. And certainly there's no two better places to talk about that than Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So this is it, Chattanooga, Tennessee. It may look familiar to y'all, a little bit different. We have a river cuts through the middle of the city. We're surrounded by mountains. We only have 4 bridges. Sorry, you're really outdoing us there. So what are the lessons that we need to talk about that I think we can learn from Chattanooga's experience? I'm going to talk about 4 of those today, again, towards this bigger idea of we have to be in control of our own destiny as cities. The first one is capitalize on your unique assets. So to do this, we need to talk a little bit about Chattanooga's history. In 1969, Walter Cronkite, whenever I tell this story, I'm reminded that people who are younger than me don't necessarily know who Walter Cronkite is, so let me just say he was really, really trustworthy. Walter Cronkite said that Chattanooga was the dirtiest city in America. You couldn't go out without coughing. It was a place that there were smokestacks everywhere. We were a city that had hung on to the past for too long, and the smokestacks were killing our city. So, good news and bad news. The good news was the air got cleaner. The bad news was that one of the reasons it got cleaner was because the jobs moved overseas and left our city. So, in a remarkable sign of city strength, city leaders got together and said, we have to do something not to let history wash over us. They got together and they said, we need to do a master plan in the 1980s that says how we're going to revitalize our city. They did that by saying one of our biggest advantages is our waterfront. In the 1980s, we took this road that you see here on the left, on my left, and redesigned it so that it went from a 4-lane highway to 2 lanes with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. That allowed us to build this aquarium that you see right here on our waterfront, and boom, downtown revitalization started. Chattanooga was the only mid-sized city in the country to lose more than 10% of its population in the 1980s to gain population in the 1990s, and it was because city leaders decided that they had to take control. Now, here's what this looks like today, because we still know that our river is one of our tremendous assets, and we continue to build an aquarium addition, a waterfront addition, attractions along our waterfront, and a riverwalk that continues to expand, that stretches throughout our city and all the way over now as it's being built out to Lookout Mountain that surrounds our city. We also know that one of our assets is our outdoors. Chattanooga has been called Best Town Ever by Outdoor Magazine. That's not a title that you want to lose while you're mayor. So we have rock climbing and hang gliding and paddle boarding and boating activities and pretty much everything that you can imagine under the sun. It's something that we try to promote every day because we think that this outdoor activity makes us better to visit, but it's also really important as an amenity for people who live in Chattanooga. And as we build a city for millennials and the younger members of our community, we know that outdoors is a tremendous attraction. Here's the next asset and one of the reasons why I'm here today. In 2009, Chattanooga decided to build a fiber optic network that connected every home and business throughout our city to a smart grid run by the city's electric utility, EPB. Now, this fiber optic network delivers gigabit per second speed to every home and business in the city. Not some neighborhoods, not particular places, every home and business. It's the fastest, cheapest, most pervasive internet in the Western Hemisphere. And when we built it, we thought in 2009, we're going to turn it on. Welcome Google, welcome Facebook, welcome Apple. Thank you for coming to Chattanooga. That's not what happened. So we talked to the venture capitalists of the world, welcomed them to Chattanooga. They didn't come either. And so then the question that leaders faced was, what do we start doing now? So we decided we were going to get the attention of Apple and Facebook and Silicon Valley venture capitalists by starting up some local activity. This is a picture from Gig Tank. Because we have this gigabit per second capability, we called our big event Gig Tank and invited people in to start inventing products. We also had 48-hour launches and reverse pitches. And then all of a sudden it turned out that we weren't talking about Apple and Facebook and others anymore. We were talking about companies that were starting in Chattanooga and growing there rather than trying to recruit from elsewhere. Let me talk about one of those, a company called QuickQ. So QuickQ grew out of the explosion of a company that actually did my campaign website in 2009. And one of the members of that group had an idea, what if we start text messaging for restaurant reservations and helping restaurants manage those reservations as they come in? So he went to one of our 48-hour launches, workshopped his ideas, talked to some mentors, walked out with $25,000 worth of capital. He went out and he decided to design this program. People started looking at it. He got more local capital, about $250,000, and again hired only local developers. This is a critical part of the story. He partnered with one of our existing businesses downtown, a company called Craftworks that owns Gordon Biersch, which you may have been to around the country, also restaurants called Big River, and they piloted it in their restaurants. When that happened, they got the attention of OpenTable, and OpenTable bought QuickQ within about 18 months of Aaron Welch having that idea for $11.25 million. Now, OpenTable has offices in Silicon Valley, New York, London, Tokyo, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. The thing that I'm really proud about with this story is that when they bought QuickQ, they had 11 people working at QuickQ. Today they have 25. They were in my office about a month ago. They're on their way to 40. While we were worried that they were going to move their offices out of there, in fact, they've been increasing it. Let me tell you the second story of what the gig means to our city. You all know these old cameras. When my daughters were born, I bought the newest machine. It had the tapes that you put in. I videotaped it. I've got my grandfather's old reel-to-reels. Well, people want those digitized. A company started in Chattanooga called SouthTree. When they started, everybody wanted them to send a DVD of their old movies to them. And then over time, they said, we want a thumb drive of our old movies. Now what does everybody want? They want those memories uploaded to the cloud so they can share them with families and friends. Well, SouthTree advertises that they have the highest resolution upload in the country or in the world, so that the memories that you have that have been digitized, you can see them clearer and better on the SouthTree site than you can on anything else. SouthTree has gone from a startup of a few years ago to having 82 people in downtown Chattanooga. Now, politicians like me, we love to talk about small business. Small business is really important. But companies like SouthTree and QuickQ are even better because they're not just small businesses, they're high-growth small businesses. 4 years ago, 2 people, now 82. That's a company that can help change your city. Lesson number 2, working together works. We in the community have a true tradition of working together, foundations and others. I started a process called Chattanooga Forward to help us come up with the next ideas to help Chattanooga. One of those is an innovation district. Chattanooga is the first mid-sized city in the country to have an innovation district. It's all about making those things happen that I just talked about. Interactions between entrepreneurs and existing business and researchers and building a city that they want to be in. But we also get together city leaders, private leaders, foundation leaders. In fact, every month I have the foundation leaders have a group meeting with me in City Hall so that we can discuss what are the things that we need to do. Data. We've talked about it several times today. Data is the foundation. City government has to lead by example. When I got into office, I retooled city government so that we eliminated departments, got to the ones that we needed, including a new Department of Transportation instead of having Public Works. We established a website, making sure that we're talking about our performance. And I know Mayor Peduto is into this as well. We linked that up with an open data portal, which is not just for city data, but that anybody in the community can contribute to. That allows us to do things like get away from this, which is the bus schedule of a friend of mine named Jenny in Chattanooga, and go to Transit App, which we were able to do in 3 days with no RFP and no money because we opened up our data, linked it up to Transit App. Our developers went in and spiked it on the website so that they knew that we were interested, and boom, all of a sudden, you can now be on Transit App and see when buses run. The next issue, face your challenges head on. This is a map of Chattanooga and particularly the poverty that we face around our city. We know in every city in our country that we have issues with poverty. How are we willing to tackle them? For us, we know that there is an affordable housing issue. I feel certain that Pittsburgh, like many other cities, is having to deal with these affordable housing issues. The second thing that we know is that we have an issue with talent. I told you that Chattanooga has these companies that are growing quickly. The one issue that we face now is not about venture capital coming to our city or having enough businesses. It's whether we've got the people to stay there so that these businesses don't move out and leave us and go to Boston or New York or Silicon Valley. The second issue that I'll tell you that we're trying to tackle head on is digital equity. These people don't actually live in Chattanooga. This is a stock photo, but I assure you everybody in Chattanooga is just as good looking as this mother and her son. Digital equity is important for every single person. I know Nicholas said something about it earlier. We have the fastest, cheapest, most pervasive internet in the Western Hemisphere. One of the things that we're doing is addressing the cost side. I can't tell you about that because I'm going to talk about it at State of the City and my staff would kill me. But we are working hard so that the city-owned utility will provide service at reduced cost to every single person who's a Title I family in our community. But the second issue, which I think is really important that people don't talk a lot about, is adoption. Even though we have this internet that people hook up to, there are so many people in our community who don't know how to use it. Parents who tell their children, don't get on your tablet because we're worried about what you're doing there. We have to increase literacy. Through Tech Goes Home, we're working with families and, importantly, seniors to make sure that we do this. This is not just a workforce development issue. That's easy for the people in this room to see. We know that if you're more digitally literate, we're going to have better economic development. But the other part I will tell you about digital literacy is this is a quality of life issue. When was the last time you picked up the Yellow Pages to look at anything? When was the last time that you went out trying to find a restaurant and said, well, let's scroll through something that's paper? For people in our community to be able to live the life of their choosing, to worship as they please, to go to the restaurants, to enjoy their lives, they need to be digitally literate. Workforce development, yes, but also quality of life. I would say that there are so many similarities between Pittsburgh and Chattanooga. I've loved this opportunity to see the city, but importantly, we're two cities that know that we cannot live in the past. That's a broken route. And in fact, what we can do is through good planning, through city leadership, through coming together, we can forge our own destiny. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks. So you stressed a lot of the similarities between Chattanooga and Pittsburgh. I want to talk about one major difference, and really whether you think it matters. You don't have Carnegie Mellon, and you don't have a University of Pittsburgh. So does that say to you, A, we've got to try that much harder, or B, I've just got to get one of those world-beating institutions into the middle of my city?
Yeah, it would make a huge difference in our city if we had Carnegie Mellon there. I mean, the fact that Pittsburgh has that is just a tremendous advantage that you have that we don't. I told you we try to work together. I actually now have a monthly meeting, not just with all the foundations, but with the Chancellor of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, because we want to be aligned so that the university can get better and also meet our needs. Again, that talent pipeline is important, but we're not just looking to UTC, we're looking to regional universities, because Chattanooga is now a place where people want to come, and we need to look for young people and talent all around our area, not just internally to the city. But there's no question that job would be easier if they were sitting in the middle of our downtown every single day, and we would be putting on the biggest recruitment that we could to make sure they stayed there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, that was great.